Welcome into another edition of Inside the Burrow, brought to you by FAUOwlsNest.com. I'm your host, JJ Metz, joined by Richard Pereira and Robbie Estella, and we got some very hot topics to go over today. First off, FAU baseball. They just did drop a game to Miami, but the big vocal point that everyone is talking about is that win versus number 12 ranked ECU. Almost had two, almost won the series. Just lost that third game, but very good baseball from FAU so far this season, and hopefully they can keep it up. Richard, recap the ECU series and the Miami game for us.
Yes, of course. So I was able to had the privilege of attending the Friday game. That one, of course, ended in a loss 4-1. But the biggest bright spot I can say about that game was the pitching, especially the pitching. Like the offense struggled to get going against what was an excellent night from their starting pitcher, who had like 12 strikeouts, which is a lot for a typical pitcher, as he ended up winning the conference's pitcher of the week. So yeah, a night like that, that's very hard to stop for the FU batting unit. And when it comes down to it, the pitching was very competitive, and that was a common theme throughout that ECU series. The pitching just kept fighting against ECU's batters, and you got to give the bullpen credit for how well they competed against East Carolina's offense, and that actually helped the team get a win on Saturday. Like they were trailing, then Spencer Rich started sparking a run, especially one where he was able to reach home plate because of a wild pitch from East Carolina that allowed them to tie the game. Then once in his next at bat, he swings in the game winning walk off to end that game and just celebrate with his team in stunning fashion over the Pirates on Saturday. And almost tried something similar as well on Sunday. Unfortunately, just couldn't get the series win, which would have been their first since 2017 when they beat Old Dominion at home, who are nationally ranked at the time. But overall, a very great series from FAU. Even with the series loss, they showed a lot of competitive spirit. Their bullpen was quite consistent throughout all three games of that series, especially CJ, Trey Beard, and then closing outings from Danny Trey. And then, unfortunately, couldn't say the same for the Miami game on Tuesday night because they gave up 19 hits, which ended up seeing them lose 14-6. Like, it happens, like off nights for the bullpen, especially against Miami on Tuesday. But you just got to bounce back from that, and you're on a pretty good road trip, and you'll be away from home for a bit. So you got to just bounce back, keep your head up, and look forward to Wichita State for 3 games.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I mean, it wasn't the best week for FAU, but they still did get a huge win there. And looking to bounce back after that Miami game, Robbie, a lot of the FAU fans maybe they more so pay attention to football and basketball, not so much baseball. But those who don't really watch too much baseball, can you just inform the viewers what's like the ceiling for this FAU baseball team? Do you think they can make it to the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, right now their record has been solid. They've been really good at home. I think 15-6 at home. Keep that up. Steal some road games here and there. I mean, road games in any sport are tough, but specifically in baseball, find a way to just win series. You don't got to get sweeps. Consistently do that, and then find a way. I mean, they may, winning the conference itself, the tournament is going to be a little bit tough. As we saw, we had ECU, who's really good. Wichita State, who we're going to see this week, they've struggled a little bit up and down, but they're normally really good. So the conference itself may be tough. It's not out of the realm of possibilities. FAU can get hot. Jalen DeBose is coming back right now. I think he came back at the end of the last series versus ECU. So that's a huge bat. If the starting pitching can just find a way to get a little bit more consistent, I don't see a reason why this team can't find a way into a regional somehow, at least.
That would be absolutely amazing if FAU does find itself into a regional. But FAU baseball this week does play a series versus Wichita State. What can we expect from this FAU team versus a pretty solid Wichita State team, Richard?
Yes. So, Wichita State, when you look at their record, quite similar to FAU's. Only difference is they have a 19-14 record, 19-14 record overall. FAU 18-12. They have the same conference record, 5-4, but Wichita State is on a 4-game losing streak. So something they FAU should take advantage of. Not in the best form, especially after getting swept by South Florida on the road, and then losing to Oklahoma State, who are ranked 21st, 9-5. So, but overall, Wichita State, something to keep an eye on when it comes to the Shockers. They have a balanced. Their offense is quite balanced. They have multiple guys hitting over 300. One of them in particular, Derek Williams, he has 8 homers. So got to be careful with him when he steps up to the plate. Jordan Rogers as well. He has 5 homers. And then when it comes to their pitching, you should really be careful about Caden Favors, who has 62 strikeouts for the Shockers, which is the most on the team. Yeah, and he has a 5-2 record whenever he starts. So a lot to watch out for when it comes for the preparation heading into Kansas, where Wichita is going to be at. So should be a fun series nonetheless. ESPN Plus with the broadcasts as usual.
Yeah, as you mentioned, FAU and Wichita State both have very similar records. Should be a great matchup, a great series that we will watch, and it's on ESPN Plus, so that should be awesome. And football is back basically because FAU spring game is coming up this Saturday, as they will have a spring game against their own team, like in an offense versus defense type spring game, kind of scrimmage against, itself. But fans are able to go. Anyone is able to go and get tickets and watch the spring game. So make sure you do that if you are available at that time. Robbie, what are some topics that you're excited to look for the spring game? Any position groups you're looking out for? And can you just talk a little bit about this QB battle that we're seeing between Cam Francher and Tyreek Starks?
Yeah, well, I think that is 100% what anyone should be watching when they go to the game on Saturday. But I'm assuming both are going to be the starters for either team. I mean, they're 1-2 right now. So I think that is that's number one for me. Cam's a guy who's transferred in here from Marshall. He's got that experience. He fits into the system really well. He's mobile. He likes to run. He can throw on the run, which is different than being able to run. You got to be able to throw too in Charlie Fry's system, and he's able to do that. But Starks is a guy who's been here. He was here last year. He played against the last game of the year against Rice. He's mobile as well. He's not a typical running quarterback. He's more of a pocket passer with a bit more mobility in his game. He's put on a ton of muscle in between last year and now. And he's been a guy that's been really competitive. He wanted to compete to start last year after Casey went down, got to play in that Rice game, look good. And here he is now. He's given Cam a run for his money. Excuse me. The reps in practice have been pretty even. They both looked really good, both able to hit the deep ball, both able to throw on the run. So that's really what I'm going to be looking at in the game. Quarterbacks wise, something else also to look at offensively, a ton of new wide receivers. Milan Tucker, Marlon Johnson. Those are just two guys that I've talked to recently that, both are coming here, first year here, and it's going to be a chance for Owls fans to see them. Marlon's a guy who there's a lot of transfers. Dom Henry's another guy. So it's like, he's not the most flashy guy. He's a senior. He doesn't have much. He's played at Buffalo, but he is 6'4", 6'5", I believe. Owls haven't had a guy to stretch the field like that since Jamal Edrin a couple years ago. So, him on the outside is going to be huge. I want to see if he makes one of those plays in the spring game because he's a guy who can go up and get the ball. And then defensively, a lot of returning players. I mean, Gerald's an ambush. It's going to be good to see them out there on the field getting active again. They're going to be leaders for the Owls. But seeing a guy like Philip Dunham in action for FAU, big time recruit, got him in here this year. And he's a playmaker. He's a guy that FAU, fingers crossed, is going to be able to keep on the team through this next round of portal openings for football. So, but yeah, watch him on Saturday. He's a safety, and he's showtime. He's going to make some big hits for FAU this year.
Richard, who are some newcomers, maybe transfers or freshmen that you're really looking at that you think could have a high ceiling at this FAU program?
Yes, of course. Following up on Robbie's point about the wide receivers, I do want to see balance because, throughout all 2023, you saw a super majority of receptions go to LaJohntay Wester, who, dominated the receptions chart. If you look at the stats, and then you see everybody else like way behind him. So for the spring game, what I'm expecting is balance, like how the targets and receptions are being allocated to each of the receivers who will be out on the field heading for the spring game on Saturday. Keep an eye on Milan Tucker, Marlon Johnson. You got those two guys, newcomers to the team, and then see like Jay-Sean Platt, who has a lot to prove with a lot of spots opening up for a starting spot for one of the starting spots at wide receiver. He'll definitely be competing, as well as BJ Alexander, a key vet in the receiving core. And then on defense, looking at the freshmen, I will look at Charquez Lee, who, a very talented linebacker that Coach Rock highly coveted, who used to be committed to East Carolina before changing his mind to pledge his loyalty to the Owls during the offseason. I would like to see him and the linebackers and a lot of the defense be aggressive with how they play, put forth all their effort and try to get some takeaways, because Coach Rock talked a lot about getting more takeaways than they did last year. Like they had a few more than they did the year prior, but what he wants to do for the upcoming season is to double the amount of takeaways that they get against opposing offenses. So this spring game should be a great opportunity for the likes of Charquez, Jackson Amplis, Desmond Tisdale, and then you look at the secondary, heavily retooled with guys like Philip Dunham, as Robbie mentioned, CJ. Wendell Fillard, who coming from Kaiser, who was a national champion during one of his seasons there, and it's going to be very interesting to see how the retooled defense, as much as they have a lot of their guys returning, has also been heavily retooled in the secondary, and to see the variety that the offense has with the many additions they got for their wide receiving core.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very fun to see some new players with FAU really having to rebuild a lot of their roster. Key offensive guys like LaJohntay Wester, Jaquan Burton, Casey Thompson all left this FAU team. And on the defensive side, you got players like Jalen Wester and Jerron Morris, two huge key players on the defensive side who really contributed last season. So it's a new look FAU football team, and very excited to go to the spring game, and we should all be looking forward to it. Now, Robbie, real quick before we end this spring ball topic, FAU football, as we mentioned, they have a lot of newcomers, but this is year 2 under Tom Herman, and last year FAU kind of underexceeded expectations, going 4-8. So where's your head at, and what are your expectations going into this football season as a way too early expectation prediction?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's reasonable to say that there's some type of expectation that the team gets back to a bowl game this year. I don't think that's unreasonable by any stretch. 6 games. There's a chance that this team gets half that right in a non-conference schedule. There's a chance to go 3-1 with the only loss being to Michigan State. If they come out there and somehow beat Michigan State, come out really hot out of the gates, there's a chance to go 4-0. But there's really winnable games right out of the gate, and that sets them up with momentum into conference schedule where they don't have to play Memphis, who's borderline one of the best teams in the country this year, top 25 potential. No Tulane either. Yeah, correct. So both of those teams are not on the schedule. So there's a lot of potential in out of conference and in conference schedule. all they have to do is just put it all together, ride that momentum from early season wins. I don't see any reason why this team can't get to a bowl game and maybe even more. It's way too early to try to say, they're going to go do this, that, and the third, but the potential is all there. It lines up really well. And Herman's a really competitive coach. He's not going to come out there and want to lay flat, especially when he really, he knows that the schedule is not the toughest. So when he's not going to just lay down. I can tell you that much. And I think this is a chance for FAU to really cement itself in football.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, the schedule is kind of favorable for FAU. Only one Power Five opponent, or Power Four now, I should say, with the Pac-12, just fully not being a conference, but only one Power Five, Power Four opponent in Michigan State, and you arguably don't have to play the top two teams in the conference in Memphis and Tulane. So with this year, with there being a G5 spot open, I'm not saying that's the expectation, but making a bowl game is definitely very possible and should be a pretty fair expectation for this FAU team. So switching the topic over to FAU basketball, FAU has seen a plethora of players enter their transfer portal, with Giancarlo Rosado, who just committed to Charlotte yesterday. John L. Davis and Vlad Golden entered the draft and the portal. Elijah Martin, Nick Boyd also entering the portal along with Isaiah Gaines. All those players that have decided that plan to depart FAU did mention that they are reconsidering returning to FAU. Richard, which is there someone you're most confident that can possibly return to FAU?
Yes, my pick would be Vlad Golden. When it comes to him declaring for the draft, I see it as a similar scenario to how Janelle and Elijah declared for the draft the previous year after making the Final Four run. Like you're in for a treat when you're declaring for the draft, and you get a lot of feedback from all the NBA scouts when you go to the combines and show what you got, showcase your talents, and show your best traits, show your best physical traits, the intangibles, the tangibles, all that fancy stuff for the basketball analytics to check you out and give you your overall evaluation. And I think Vlad Golden's doing just that. Like getting everything he needs to know to get better at, like especially after the big season he had throughout this season, where he became a focal point of the FU offense and becoming such an enforcer inside the paint with how efficient he was, shooting wise and scoring wise, and just being a double machine from time to time. So him getting feedback from the draft scouts during the combines, very important, and I think he'll use his final year of eligibility for the 2024-25 campaign, come back to the Owls. That's something I do have plenty of confidence in. And of course, honorable mention to Elijah Martin and Nick Boyd, who I also think have there's a pretty good chance they would come back as well. Elijah, he's just testing his options, testing waters, see what's out there. Same for Nick Boyd. But at the end of the day, I think that they'll know their true loyalty lies with FAU. And when it comes to Giancarlo Rosado going to Charlotte, it's his decision. We wish him the best of luck, of course. It's time for a new chapter in his career. Even though it wasn't his best of seasons this past season, of course, you only wish him the best, and as well.
Yeah.
Especially with the new system that he'll be playing there with the 49ers.
Yeah, I agree. We should definitely wish G the best. Had a remarkable tournament in the 23 or 22-23 season where we made the Final Four run. But as you mentioned, Nick Boyd and Elijah Martin are two guys who could also come back alongside Vlad Golden. Me personally, I think Elijah Martin is going to come back. He hasn't made, though Jeff Goodman did make a message that he's in the portal, Elijah hasn't even made a message that he's in the portal, and he's not in the portal in 247 Sports. And what I'm hearing, if you look at 247, Elijah's not in the portal, or 24/7. And Elijah also is reportedly entered the portal with a no contact tag, which means that he may just reach out to a couple schools and ask for a little bit more that can benefit him financially than FAU. And he may come back. I mean, I don't know if you saw, but he's doing the autograph poster signing at FAU to the FAU fans. So I'm confident that Elijah comes back. I mean, you can look, there's no message from him, and he's not in the portal in 247 Sports. So we will see. We will see. I definitely think it's possible for FAU to return almost everybody. Shout out to Trey Carroll, the first player to announce that he's coming back. I believe that Brennan Lorient, he hasn't made any announcement. He would also be huge if he comes back to this team along with many other players that maybe didn't get the most playing time this year, like Alejandro Lott, Jack Johnson, Leo Beath. I may be forgetting someone, but that's off the top of my head, Jaquel and Devin. So, returning those would be huge. Now, FAU basketball with John Jacobs being the new head coach, with obviously the coaching change from Dusty May to John Jacobs. Robbie, how confident are you in John Jacobs bringing in the right guys?
Well, you got to be confident in him because he's been in a lot of different places. No, I guess it's not a lot of different places. He's been at two really important places, in my opinion. When you look at Baylor, when you look at Gonzaga, and he's played a pivotal role in recruiting there. And so he doesn't just lose that. It doesn't go anywhere when he comes to FAU. If anything, it's enhanced because now he's got control. It's the guys he wants to bring here. Whether he's going to bring in a full boatload of P5 bounce backs, I highly doubt that. I think, there's a potential for him to bring in some guys that he recruited at Baylor that maybe didn't work out that are now looking for a new home. But is he going to get them all? Probably not, because at the end of the day, these guys are all looking for NIL. And although FAU is doing really well in NIL, ask Tom Herman. I mean, he said it himself. That school is doing well in that department, but it's not going to compete with some of these other schools. So I think he's going to be able to bring in some, but I think, is not going to be able when, it gets reported that FAU is recruiting a guy from Florida A&M, for example, that the portal report put on their website. It doesn't mean that this guy is going to come in here, Kajai Parker, and be the next Elijah Martin, Nick Boyd. He could come in here and play 5 minutes. But at the end of the day, he's going to have to fill out the entire roster, which I think he's going to be more than capable of doing with very talented players coming in here. But hopefully he doesn't have to fill out an entire roster. Hopefully he'll be able to get some returning guys. And he already has. Look at Trey coming back, being a trendsetter. I love it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that'd be huge for John Jacobs. Is there anyone you have in mind, maybe even like high school, that you could see high school recruiting, maybe 25 class, or even just portal that you may have a little prediction that could come to FAU, or not yet? And Richard, this goes to you too.
Richard, I don't have anything off the top of my head. It's tough. FAU, you see all these other schools out here getting rumors of, I'm talking to this player, I'm talking to that. FAU has really been quiet. And I know John Jacobs isn't just sitting doing nothing. So there's, he's out there recruiting, and there's a reason it's being kept quiet. I just, who knows? Ideally, JJ, you brought this up on the last podcast. In an ideal world, FAU goes out there and pulls Miro Little and brings him to FAU somehow, pitch it and be the focal point in the offense, whatever. That would be an ideal pickup. But any type of players like that were in a Power 5 situation, that didn't have any ulterior factors off the court, they just didn't play. I want to see those type of players that he's able to bring here. I just don't have anyone specifically.
Richard, same question to you. Even like high school, anything you could maybe just put out for the fans.
Right. I do not have any specific names, unfortunately, though I'm sure Jacobs is trying his best to re-recruit the guys who decommitted, like Ty Robinson, Lorenzo Case, and Elijah Elliott. Like, they may be Mays recruits, but they're still recruits looking for the best scenarios possible. And if he has the ability to present that to them, he should present that to them, especially Ty Robinson, who is an amazingly talented recruit. It's amazingly very talented shooter and scorer. Like, a player that FU would love to have playing out on at the Burrow, playing at the Burrow. So, and he did delete his announcement saying that he was decommitting from FEU. So we don't know if he's back with his recommitment, but it's like it's up in the air. It's up in the air at the moment, but it leaves some hope that he might be having second thoughts about decommitting and maybe recommitting with the Owls. But we won't know until he officially announces that, okay, I'm back with FEU. So guys like him, and then implementing the tri-county takeover. Like look over all of your high schools in Palm Beach County, Broward, and Miami-Dade. Like check them out. Like and especially once they put together their coaching staff, which could be expected in the next couple of days, especially by the end of this week, maybe. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the coaching staff looks and see how their recruiting tactics bring in very talented players from the local high schools and see what guys they can get out of the transfer portal, NIL or not. There are huge aspirations for Coach Jacobs to like splash in his first year as a head coach at FEU. So I can't wait to see what he does from here on out.
Yeah, I agree.
One name we just didn't bring up is Josh Omohafo. I think it's rumored that Jordan Fee is coming over from Gannon University, and he was his leading scorer on Gannon last year. They went 32-3. I think he's a 6'4" guard, so that's some potential right there, but it's just nothing confirmed. So that's just a rumored player. We'll give the fans a name to work with. That's all I got.
Yeah, I agree. I think Ty is definitely very possible. Miro Little would be in an ideal, perfect situation to bring over. There are also some other guys in 25, like Alex Lloyd, who's a 5-star recruit, who's considering FAU. So, Robbie, what were you going to say?
No, I'm all good.
Oh, sorry. I saw you on mute. But definitely, there are definitely some guys that John Jacobs, I could see him getting. And it's just going to be a matter of time to wait and see. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that subscribe button, leave a like, and feel free to drop a comment down below. Thank you guys so much, and go Owls.
Yep, go Owls.
Go Owls, baby.